The frontier was a place where a person's worth was often measured by the weight of a cattle herd, the size of a ranch, or the number of bullets carried beneath a coat. Mercy rarely survived beneath the endless Wyoming sky, and kindness was considered a dangerous weakness. Every autumn, the small frontier town of Dry Creek hosted livestock and labor auctions. Ranchers came searching for horses, wagons, hired hands, and abandoned belongings left behind after bankruptcies. Hidden among those transactions stood people whose lives had been shattered by greed and misfortune. One cold afternoon, a frightened young woman stood silently near the back of the auction platform. Her faded blue prairie dress was torn by weeks of hard travel. Dust covered her worn boots, and loose strands of blonde hair framed a face exhausted by hopelessness. She had lost her parents to disease, her family ranch to corrupt land speculators, and every relative willing to protect her. Rumors painted her as cursed, bringing bad fortune wherever she went. Buyers walked past without a second glance. The auctioneer lowered the price again and again. Still no one stepped forward. The crowd laughed as her value fell beneath that of an old saddle and a broken mule. Among the silent spectators stood Cole Harper, a quiet cowboy known throughout the territory for his honesty, rather than his wealth. His ranch was modest, his cattle few, but his reputation was stronger than oak. Cole had come to buy supplies, not change another person's life. Yet as he watched the frightened girl standing, completely alone while strangers mocked her existence, something stirred deep inside the heart he believed had grown cold forever. Without hesitation, he placed $2 silver onto the auction table. Silence spread through the crowd. The auctioneer quickly accepted the payment before anyone could object. Laughter echoed across the dusty street as nearby ranchers mocked Cole for wasting even $2 on someone they believed was useless. But Cole never looked back. The young woman followed him toward his small ranch with uncertainty, heavier than the leather satchel, resting upon her shoulder. Neither spoke during the long ride home. Endless prairie grass waved beneath the evening breeze while distant mountains glowed beneath a crimson sunset. Cole expected nothing in return. He simply believed no human being deserved to be treated like forgotten property. Days slowly became weeks. The frightened stranger worked harder than anyone on the ranch. Before sunrise, she prepared meals, cared for horses, repaired torn clothing, tended vegetable gardens, and quietly restored life to a home that had long been filled only with silence. The lonely ranch slowly transformed. Warm laughter returned. Fresh flowers appeared beside the porch. Broken fences stood stronger than before. For the first time in years, Cole no longer dreaded returning home after sunset. Neither realized they had already become targets. Far beyond the northern hills, wealthy ranch owner Victor Kane unfolded an old land deed proving that the young woman had unknowingly inherited thousands of acres bordering Cole's property. Greed lit his eyes. If he controlled her, he would own the entire valley. As darkness covered the prairie, armed riders quietly crossed onto Harper land. They carried ropes, rifles, and orders to bring the girl back alive.
Just promise you'll come back alive.
The attack came before sunrise. Smoke drifted through the cold morning air as frightened horses kicked against their stalls. Gunfire shattered the peaceful silence, sending ranch hands scrambling for cover while masked. Riders stormed through the Harper ranch. Cole fought with the determination of a man defending far more than land. Every fence, every stable, and every weathered building represented years of honest labor. But none of them mattered as much as protecting the woman who had quietly become the heart of his lonely home. The outlaws searched every room. They overturned furniture, scattered family photographs, and ripped open trunks searching for one person. The young woman narrowly escaped through a hidden cellar beneath the kitchen floor while Cole distracted the attackers outside. Although the criminals eventually retreated, they left destruction behind. Burned barns, dead livestock, broken wagons, a warning carved into the ranch gate. Victor Kane had declared war. As neighbors gathered to help rebuild, old documents hidden inside a damaged wooden chest revealed the truth. Years earlier, the woman's parents had owned the largest cattle ranch in the valley before forged contracts and violent intimidation forced them from their land. Their deaths had never been accidents. Everything had been carefully planned. Victor Kane had stolen the entire inheritance. Only one surviving heir remained, the frightened girl nobody wanted. Cole finally understood why strangers had avoided buying her at the auction. Fear had protected Victor's greatest secret. Determined to reclaim what rightfully belonged to her, Cole began collecting evidence from abandoned courthouses, retired sheriffs, and aging ranchers who had witnessed Kane's crimes decades earlier. Each discovery exposed another layer of corruption. Forged signatures, false witnesses, murder disguised as frontier justice. As hope slowly returned, Kane grew desperate. One stormy evening, while returning from town with the final legal document proving ownership, Cole found the ranch strangely quiet. The horses stood restless. The front door hung open. The house had been ransacked. Fresh wagon tracks disappeared toward Black Ridge Canyon. Only one thing remained behind. A blue ribbon torn from the young woman's dress. The kidnapping had succeeded. Cole looked toward the dark horizon. For years he had believed rescuing someone else was impossible. This time, he refused to fail. Black Ridge Canyon heading swallowed countless men without leaving behind even a single grave marker. Its towering cliffs sheltered outlaws, cattle thieves, and murderers who believed the law would never reach them. Victor Kane waited there with complete confidence. The kidnapped heiress had already been forced to sign. Forged papers transferring every acre of her inheritance. Only one signature remained, Cole's. Without it, Kane could not seize Harper Ranch and unite the valley beneath his control. As dawn painted the canyon walls with golden light, Cole rode alone into the outlaw camp. He carried no army, only truth. Hidden inside his saddlebag rested the original land deeds, sworn witness statements, and court records exposing decades of fraud. Unknown to Kane, several United States Marshals and neighboring ranchers quietly surrounded the canyon after receiving copies of the evidence. The trap had shifted. The hunter had become the hunted. Chaos erupted. Gunfire echoed through the narrow canyon, while frightened horses scattered across loose gravel. The marshals arrested Kane's hired gunmen one by one. Several attempted escape but found every trail blocked by armed ranchers whose families had suffered under Kane's greed for years. Justice finally reached the frontier. Victor Kane's empire collapsed before sunset. The stolen ranches were returned to their rightful owners. The young woman's inheritance was legally restored, making her one of the wealthiest landowners in the territory. Yet wealth no longer mattered. Standing outside the rebuilt Harper Ranch weeks later, she looked across the peaceful valley that had once been stained by betrayal. The lonely cowboy who had spent only $2 had never purchased a servant. He had offered dignity when everyone else had offered rejection. The kindness that seemed foolish to the town had become the greatest decision of his life. The seasons slowly changed. The ranch flourished. New barns rose where ashes once lay. Children's laughter eventually echoed across the same porch that had once known only silence. Travelers passing through Dry Creek continued telling the remarkable story of the cowboy who had paid only $2 for the girl no one wanted. They always ended the tale the same way. Some fortunes were measured in land, others in gold. But the greatest fortune ever found on the American frontier was discovering a heart willing to see value where the rest of the world saw none. The valley never forgot that lesson, nor did the cowboy whose smallest act of compassion became the love story that outlived every legend of the Wild West. The end.